What's up? Happy Friday. Hello, everyone. Turn down that music a little bit. Little bit loud, a little bit aggressive. Maybe let's even turn it off. Switch to another track. The next chapter. Hope you guys are all doing well. For me, I'm doing pretty good. I'm looking forward to the weekend. I feel like the seasons are changing again, you know? I've got like, it's kind of cold. You know, it's like a little bit cold in my room. It's like warm outside and then cold in here. And I feel like I'm getting sort of like a clamminess, you know, in my bones. If I go outside, I feel great. Inside, I'm like a little bit like, you know, not good. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the humidity. I was looking up like, I want to buy a humidity sensor for my room so I can figure out if this is even related. I think that would be good. I feel like this happened to me last winter too, honestly. But anyway, that's that, you know, that's that. I think today we're going to take a look at a couple of different things. We're going to look at some testing stuff. I've been thinking about some ideas for how to do more testing of magic constants, essentially. Batch size kinds of things, or like adding more assertions that are expensive. You know, it's complicated code base. Databases are complicated. Anytime that we can think of a way to test it better, it's probably a good use of time. So I want to do a little bit of that. I have a little bit of a work in progress. I wanted to sort of clean it up, send it out, get done with that. And then on the other hand, I was going to start diving back into another favorite topic of the stream, which is dealing with overload, basically. Dealing with resources, trying to expose what queries use what resources. I want to sort of brainstorm a little bit today about, like, let's say you have a workload on your database and it's expensive, so expensive that your hardware can't keep up with it, right? That can happen to any database. Question is, if you're a user and you want to figure out what is that part of the workload that's too expensive for your hardware, how do you figure out what that is? I think we have some basic controls, basic ways to figure this out, but they're not really good enough. I want it to be even better. So I want to think about that a little bit, maybe hack on something. Hey, safe to type. Faust. Nice to see you. Yeah, the schedule got a little out of whack, but it's back. I like this time too. I think it's a good time. You know, sometimes things get in the way. You gotta visit your family, go on vacation. Other things happen. You know how it is. But anyway, so yeah, this is kind of the plan. Let's see. Did I have anything else to talk about? Did I have anything else to talk about? I think that the answer is basically, oh, I did have something else to talk about. So who lives in a city? I live in New York. I think you guys know that. I live in Brooklyn. And what did I see yesterday? But a fat, cute raccoon. And you might be like, okay, that's weird. From the Bronx? Chicago? Nice. That's where I went to school, in Chicago. Jiminy Cricket, what's up? But yeah, I was in the backyard of my friend's house and I saw this fatty raccoon, and it wasn't being nasty. You know how sometimes raccoons are they're like hunched over, they've got their little paws and they're like scrabbling through some trash. No, this was like a sweet raccoon. It was in a tree. It was just sort of peering around. It had a cute little face. I don't know. I was like, wow, I feel some empathy for you right now. I kind of like that, you know? Raccoons are just beasts, right? They're not necessarily pests. I think that they could be a nice beast for you if you're looking for a nice beast. But anyway, we sort of watched it for a while. It crawled up, it crawled down. I think it came out because we were eating in the backyard, you know, and maybe it smelled the food. But it didn't come down. We tried to chase it away in the beginning. I was like clapping, but it didn't care. It's like these things are so accustomed to human beings that I don't think they really care all that much about what we're doing. But anyway, I don't know. What's the moral of the story? The moral of the story is that I don't know, raccoons. It's kind of cute, you know. If you don't freak out about them eating your trash or whatever, they can be cute. They're a little bit too smart. Yo, 213, what's up? Yeah, they can be a little bit too smart. So that's that, right? Let's do some programming. So the first thing that I wanted to do, right, was this testing stuff. So let me tell you guys what this is about. I have this, I came up with a humorous law one time. I think that this humorous law that I came up with is undersung, and I think it's a great humorous law. And this is only slightly related to this humorous law, actually, but I just want to talk about it anyway. You know how like there's this, tradition of writing these humorous laws in engineering or whatever, like this person's law, that person's law. Anyway, so Jordan's law is that, hold on, wait, let me pull it up on Twitter. I wrote it down one time. I think I didn't phrase it in like the funniest possible way, so like maybe that's sort of the issue. But I think I retweeted it recently, didn't I? Thought I retweeted it recently. Hold on. What if I search for it? Jordan's law of sticky magic constants. Okay. The ease of changing those arbitrary code constants you add for performance is inversely proportional to their age. So I think that the phrasing of this thing is crap and I've got to fix it. But the idea is that, you're like making some kind of program and you're like, okay, my batch size is going to be 1024. Or like, the number of blocks I'm going to read at the same time is going to be 6 or something like that, right? And it's like, you don't know what you're going to pick at first, but you just have no clue. I'll actually show you one of them in the CockroachDB source code that I was thinking of when I wrote this. It's called call batch. No, what is it called? Mem batch. There's got to be something in here. Default batch size. Default batch size is the size of batches that is used in the non-test setting. Initially, 1024 was picked based on MongoDB X100 paper and was later confirmed to be very good. The best number according to the benchmark is 1280, but it was negligibly better, so we decided to keep it 1024 as it is a power of 2. So, like, what is this about? I think the answer is that once you pick one of these things, right, so the first time you pick it, it doesn't matter because you're like, I haven't even written the code yet. I just need to pick something to try things out. I don't know what's going to happen. And then you like forget about it inevitably because like, why would you tune this thing so early in the project? A year goes by, maybe 6 months or a year goes by and you're like, what is the constant in this case again? Like, why did I pick 1024? But the thing is that at that point, if you did want to change it, the amount of effort that you have to spend on benchmarking, testing, and like other sort of reasoning is like way, way bigger than the amount of reasoning that you had to spend at the beginning. In the beginning, you don't have to spend any amount of energy really thinking about it. You can pick anything and it's fine. But by the time that it's like sort of gotten old, it's on you. You've got to think about, why am I going to modify this thing? What are the reasons? And also, do I have to prove it to myself and to others by writing tests and benchmarks? So basically, yeah, the longer you wait, the harder it is to change these things. And I just don't think there's anything you can do about that. I think that's just like reality. But anyway, so why does this connect back to what I'm talking about? I think the answer is that, so for correctness, right? There's other things besides just performance with batch sizes and other sort of constants like this. There's also just like correctness. In the case of batches, things tend to get funky at the edges of batches, right? Like you'll have a loop inside of the batch, and then you'll have a loop outside of the batch. You're like, what if I don't finish all my work by the time a single batch is over? And yeah, so you have to have logic for that, right? And oftentimes if you're writing little test cases, you're not going to make enough data to fill up an entire batch. So one way to combat that and combat bugs that might happen at batch boundaries is to sort of, edit this thing at runtime, or like in your test setting, you can say, okay, well, normally in production we're running with batch size 1024, but in my test I'm going to run with batch size like 1 or something like that to force everything to be a batch size boundary, or whatever the case may be. And sorry, I just realized I didn't retweet. I gotta retweet my stream announcement. I gotta be like, okay, we're live now. So let me just quickly do that. We're live now. So, right. And I think we do this sort of thing in a lot of different individual tests, right? We have a lot of unit tests that are like kind of randomly, hey,
relational databases don't scale.
Crazy driver. Thank you so much for that Twitch Prime subscription. And really appreciate that. How are you doing, Crazy Driver? It's nice to see you. Enjoy that big O of 2 to the N, you know, subscriber emote. And enjoy being able to spam this like awkward looking face. Working on a PR, very cool. Right. So like, yeah, man, you know, you can write unit tests for this stuff and that's great, but what if you really also want to make sure that every test in your test corpus is also going to get the benefit of varying these things? And that's really where the stuff comes in, is that, you know, as a project develops more tests and a bigger test corpus, you want to make sure that that corpus is being utilized to the fullest extent that you can possibly utilize it in, which means thinking about really varying settings, right? What we like to call metamorphic tests. A metamorphic test, the idea is you try to pick some knobs in the database or in the project, whatever it is, and particular kinds of knobs that you can twiddle such that the output of all test cases don't change, right? So that's a batch size, or that's a, you know, how often to flush to disk, or that's like a, I don't know, whatever it is. Settings that change maybe the performance or some internal characteristics that don't expect to change the output and don't expect to cause crashes, right? So that's what a metamorphic test is. And the answer of like what I want to do here is like, I want to make it so that this batch size is always getting varied through the whole test corpus. I think we already have some tests that do this, and we already have a way to make that happen for this particular one. But there's a lot of batch sizes around that we don't do this thing with, and that's what I sort of wanted to change. So that's what this PR is about. The idea is that instead of having to do bespoke code every time that we have one of these special kind of, you know, constants, the idea is that we want to be able to have like a method that allows you to automatically vary these things in certain test configurations without having to think about it, right? The more you can leverage your developers to be able to test things sort of automatically with just like a one-liner that changes some huge amount of configuration elsewhere that's already set up, I think the better. Just more people are going to write more tests, and that's really the dream, right? You want to make as many tests as possible because that's how we make sure that our code is right. So, yeah. So I don't know. Here's this API that I made up, util.constant with test value. I think there's some questions about the naming of this thing. And I wanted to, let's see. So I think I did send this up for review already, and I got some comments. So I wanted to respond to those comments first of all. So let's go ahead and get that up and going. So let's see. Yeah, I kind of recently realized something that's a little bit annoying about my stream setup, which is that GitHub actually, like, it's kind of like a leaky thing for a stream, honestly. I'm a little bit concerned about it because what happens is that if you have a private repo that I can see because I'm logged in as me, but that the public couldn't see, and that private repo links to this public issue, then GitHub's gonna like show a rich preview of that private issue, and that's sort of like leaking information. Like you see this one, this is a public issue, but if there was like a private repo that linked to this that I could see and you couldn't, I could show that on stream by accident, and that could be like really a problem. So I don't know what to do about it. I kind of think I need to either browse GitHub in incognito mode or like make another account that doesn't have so many privileges. I don't know. It makes me sad, honestly, because big part of the stream that I like is that it's, you know, open source development. I don't have to worry about this stuff too much, but GitHub just does this cross-linking stuff. I wish it was a setting you could turn off in GitHub, like streamer mode or something, like don't display this stuff, but they don't have such a thing. Anyway, okay, so here's some comments. Production and tests are confusing because when I see this, I assume all tests run with the test constant and production is only used for release binaries, but really it's more like a default, which is the normal, and says special value, alternate, substitute, or leave as test. So that's like a pretty good point, I think. So let's go to this definition, constant with test value. So what should we call this? Test constants. Oh yeah, there's another question, which is like, what is the name? Yeah, by the way, the whole way that this works is that we do it with build tags so that like it's still going to be efficient. You know, when the code is compiled and this thing is off, so a production build, you know, this is going to be statically false and the compiler can just delete all the branches that have it as true. So that's why this is this. I don't know if you've seen this in Go. You can have these sort of build tags that don't get, you know, essentially we have two files here, test constants on and test constants off. And the difference is just that it's got a plus here in the case of the on case, and we set it to true. And here it's got a minus case. And depending on what flags you pass to the compiler, you know, one of these files is going to get included basically. But another question is like, is this, first of all, I need to have a comment on this. Otherwise it's not going to even pass the linter. So test constants is true, is a, how do I comment this given the fact that it's like compiled out? I don't know. So it's a flag that is set to true if the binary was compiled with the test constants build tag. This flag can be used to enable expensive checks, like test randomizations, or other metamorphic style perturbations. How do you spell that word? Perturbations that will not affect test results, but will exercise different parts of the code. Basically that. Hey, Kina42, how are you doing? Nice to see you on the stream. So I need this on both. Who doesn't like the word randomizations? This is nonsense. This is for sure a word. Save randomizations to dictionary. You'll be Googling that word when you see it because, oh, you mean perturbations? I like perturbations. I think it's like, it's kind of, it reminds me of the like, did you ever take like an electronics class? And you know how like, what is it? It's like transistor, twiddle in or something. What do people say? I feel like there was something when I was learning about transistors that it was like, if you like twiddle the sort of input knob of this transistor, it like has a big twiddle effect on the throughput or something. I don't know. I think of that. I think of perturbations. I don't know what's wrong with me. Just what I think about. Anyway, so test constants though, it's such kind of a bad name. I think that's kind of one of the complaints of this review here. Because it isn't really like, we just need a super generic word for whatever this build tag is going to be. Historically, we like to use this sort of race detector flag for tests like this, but I think the problem is that the race detector is so slow that a lot of tests get disabled during that race detector's run because people have decided that their tests don't really work with the race detector, which means that if you ever wanted to include any of these metamorphic effects in those tests, you'd be kind of in bad trouble. They just wouldn't really run. So I need to come up with a new name for this. Like, I was you know, you could sort of have like an assertions build, right? That would be one way of calling this thing. But assertions isn't even quite right either because, you know, it's just a lot more general. I was thinking we could call it metamorphic. That would be kind of neat. And it's also more correct, right? It's like, it's essentially what we're saying is like this build is going to have the same output for any like data returning APIs as a normal build, but it might get the result in a different way that's less efficient. That's essentially what it is. So maybe we should just call it metamorphic and be done with it, right? Maybe we should just call it metamorphic. Does that make sense? Let's just do that. Let's make it happen. Metamorphic. And we can call this metamorphic build. How about that? Does this make sense? I don't know. And then here we can say constant with metamorphic test value or something. The constant must be modifiable. Or how do we say this? It's sort of like the constant must be a metamorphic variable. Changing it cannot affect the output of any data returning APIs. Let's say any SQL APIs. Well, that's not quite right either. Let's say SQL DMLs, maybe. It can only affect the way in which the data is retrieved, because otherwise, essentially it's like otherwise tests, it's like otherwise the main test corpus would fail if this flag is enabled, something like that. I don't know. Does this make sense? Does this make sense? So I think it makes good enough sense. So we can say, let's see, this should be default. I like that. Default is not a valid identifier, right? That is a problem. What about default value? And then here's our metamorphic constant or something. I mean, like ideally I would want to introduce a bunch of these things where it's like, instead of just having this one, we could also have, you know, constant with metamorphic range or something like that. And you could pass in a range of different possibilities, or maybe you could pass in an array of potential metamorphic values and it could randomize it when you get run, something like that to allow for more variety. But we're going to just start with this. Okay. So here I'll say I've renamed the build tag constant and methods to be about metamorphic testing. Okay, so let's fix some of these other nits here. It's kind of confusing that this is called value and this is called constant. I should probably fix that. Let's say default value and metamorphic value. You might ask, like, why do we have these comments? It's just because I think it's a stylistic thing. People like, not everybody has an editor that shows like the name of a value like this, and it can be kind of confusing to see a call with just like some naked integers. So we like to put these sort of inline comments to remind people at a glance what the arguments mean. I'm kind of mixed on this, honestly. I don't love it, but I bow to convention, you know? Sometimes you got to bow to convention. Default value, metamorphic value. Yeah, so I guess I went through and did a bunch of these, didn't I? A few different constants that really should be varied more. When do you choose to add those comments and not? I mean, it's basically like when there's like some undifferentiated looking argument list that's just sort of like naked integers, naked strings, or like some nils or whatever. If you have like a struct that has like a meaningful name that you're passing in, we generally don't do it. Or if this was a variable name that said, you know, default value, and I had like, you know, const default value equals 5, like you wouldn't need to put the comment here because it's self-explanatory. It's sort of just like when you have constants in the call that you like to do it. I don't know. I mean, I think it's a reasonable convention. Maybe. Okay, so I think that's that for the comments. Default and custom, I renamed this. Seems like a leftover. Okay, let's fix that one. Yep, no, I appreciate you asking. Let's get rid of this, yeah. Okay. So this doesn't need to export it. Yeah, true. I figured we'd end up using it elsewhere, but maybe you're right. Yeah, I guess I'll unexport it for now. Okay, so let's go back and unexport those things. Oh, the other thing is that this file is now misnamed. It's called test constants on and test constants off. But what we really need to call it is like metamorphic build, metamorphic on, metamorphic off, I guess. Test constants on. So we'll call this metamorphic off. I don't exactly know why I'm using the IDE rename, but it just because I feel like it, I guess. Metamorphic on. Okay. So yeah, the other thing I've got to do is, I think I changed a build script to use this tag, right? Tags test constant. So I've got to change this build script to use the metamorphic tag instead of the test constants tag, since we renamed that. Okay. Okay, so we'll push this up. We'll push this up, and whoops, did I not? I didn't commit amend.
Database.
Hey, Kappa votes. Thanks for the follow. Kappa. Kappa votes. Right. Yeah, dude, congrats. That was awesome. Thanks you for contributing. Yeah, if you guys don't know, Crazy Driver has merged their own PR for the first time, which is exciting. About event logging. It's pretty neat stuff, pretty useful. So there you go. So let's see. Do I want to do more on this now? Or do I want to give it a rest? Hey, Nikon, how are you? Oh, you know what I forgot to do is unexport that flag. Let's just do that real quick. Metamorphic build. Preparing yourself for an important design meeting at work. Good luck. I hope it goes well. Good to prepare for things, especially if they're important. Okay. So, User role grant and revoke logging currently. Awesome. I think that rounds out the set. That's gonna be super great. Hey, Hemonth43, what am I doing? I'm working on thinking about sort of a metamorphic test mode to help test edge cases in this database that I work on, CockroachDB. So what I wanted to do, yeah, so if you do this, if you guys know about this command in Cockroach, show all, that shows all of the session settings that you can use as a user. My keyboard is awesome, thanks. And I think what we've done a few times is add some settings that are used just in tests. I don't see them now, actually. Or maybe they're cluster settings. So there's two kinds of settings in Cockroach. There's sort of a session setting, which is local just to a session, meaning a connection. And then there's cluster settings, which are sort of, yeah, they're global for a cluster. I guess that's obvious, but. And we did go around and add a bunch of these. Wow, this is like impossible to read with the font size. It might just be impossible to read in general. Do I even Vim? SQL.testing.vectorized.batch size, right? This is what I'm talking about. This is what we were looking at the beginning, in fact, which is what do we set this batch size to in new sessions? And we only vary this for tests, and we try to vary it in these big test corpuses so that we can catch issues with batch size. We recently added another one, which is the batch size for this other thing called mutations, which is like, you know, insert, upsert, delete, blah, blah, blah. Those have batch sizes as well, and we found a bug there that we wanted to exercise with some randomized testing, basically. And so I guess I'm sort of wondering if we could... I don't like this style of testing where we expose something that even a user could change, because really nobody should ever touch this. And it's just sort of confusing and a little bit hostile, I think, to even have this setting available in helps and stuff like that. So theoretically, I think what we could do is supplant this style of testing with this quote-unquote
the
metamorphic
databank's
style
too
test.
big. I have to narrow down the search. How are you going to do that?
Hey, Prati, thanks for the follow. So what we do here is a testing cluster setting that sets the default max mutation batch size. A low max batch size is useful to test batching logics of the mutation. So it's like we end up then reading this thing later over here. And if it's set to non-zero, then we set it, right? The thing is that, like, yeah. This is where we actually get it. The thing is that I think the way it's done right now is we only get to twiddle this batch size if we have specifically done it. Meaning, like, this thing only gets called in one place by this flow, which means that it only actually gets set if we change the cluster setting. And we only change the cluster setting in it looks like one test, right? Which is mutations. Wait, in the logic tests. Hey, Gloose Cop, you're having, oh right, Juice Cop. I remember talking to you. You told me how to pronounce your name better. You're having a hard time reading non-colored something. You mean like this comment stuff? Is that a little low contrast? You're kind of right. In general, I like this font, but it's like a little bit hard to read. How do I change that? Comments, bot comment. I'm afraid if I start messing with this, it's gonna look like I'm scared. I don't want to mess with this now. You're talking about my terminal? I don't know. I'm not gonna mess with this. I'm sorry that you're. I'm sorry. Right. So we set this stuff at the beginning of these logic tests. I don't. Hey, Hemonth, if you look at, I have an article in the bottom of my About Me section that talks about all of the gear that I have that you can check out for more details. I think I talk about my mouse in there. It's nothing special. But yeah, so for these logic tests, the way, I don't know, I think you've seen these on stream before. Just as an example, we've got this huge directory full of files here. These are all test files. Oh, sorry. How do you pronounce it? We have all these files. These are all what we call logic tests. And a logic test is really just a sequence of SQL statements along with an expected response for each query. A query is something that returns rows. And if you run one, you can ask for an expected response. And if these things don't match, then it throws an error. And you can also say this is an expected error. There's like a few things you can do in these logic tests. But the point is that it's this massive corpus of tests that we really, really like for checking conditions in the database. And we like to use this test corpus as, well, the input to these metamorphic functions, basically. Hey month, hey month, hey month. Okay, thank you for the correction. So the point is that when we do run these logic tests, we have a bunch of these metamorphic variables that we do right in the beginning of the tests. We set this vectorized row count threshold, so we're always running with vectorized in the case of I see. It sort of depends on the configuration of the logic test. You can configure each test file to have different configurations that it runs under. So if we have this override vectorized thing on, then we run this. But in every case, it looks like we run set defaults vectorized row count threshold to 0, testing vectorized batch size to whatever the randomized size is. So we're always metamorphically modifying the vectorized batch size, which is that 1024 thing I was talking about at the beginning of the stream. We always set the mutation batch size to something random. And that's it. So there's these, I guess, sort of two metamorphic variables here. And the question is like, could we get away with setting these metamorphic variables all of the time in this new top level test mode? And I think the answer is like almost yes, but like maybe not completely yes. I sort of want to try it out to see what happens actually. So why don't we do that actually? So we'll go to, where do we get that? SQL.testing.vectorize batch size. I guess we set it up here. And I think what I want to do is instead of saying all this, well, it's not actually as easy as this because I think this new test mode that I want to add, it's not going to get run on every pull request or anything like that. It's actually going to be just run in a single nightly configuration. And I wouldn't want to make these normal tests less effective. So I don't want to completely get rid of this method here. So I guess, maybe I want to just have an or condition, right? It's like either testing batch size is not equal to 0, or we have this other metamorphic condition. So let's set that up now. We'll say, var metamorphic batch size is equal to util.metamorphic constant with metamorphic test value. The default will be. Now, how do we get the default? I guess for the default, we want to use this default batch size thing. Oh, it's actually simpler than this. Forget what I'm talking about. I think over here, we're just going to say, instead of const default batch size, we're going to say var default batch size is equal to util dot constant with metamorphic value 1024 is the default value, and then the metamorphic value will be now this is where we sort of want this randomization to come into play, right? So I think what we'll want to do is introduce a new kind of method here. So we'll say constant with metamorphic test range or something like that. Metamorphic min. Maybe we'll just say min and max. So if it's a metamorphic build, we're going to return random. How do we get a random number in Go again? It's like int31 mod max minus min plus min, I think. Oh God, I'm always so bad at figuring out how this stuff works. I think, okay, here's what it is. We're gonna intify this, then we're gonna mod it by max minus min, and then we're gonna add min. I think this is right. Constant with metamorphic test range returns a constant I'll say is like constant with metamorphic test value, except instead of returning a single metamorphic test value, it returns a random test value in a range. Okay. So here we'll say metamorphic test range. The default will be 1024. The min, I guess, will be 1. And the max will be max batch size, I guess. So we'll try this out. We'll try this out. This commit adds metamorphic testing to the vectorized batch size. And then let me do one more while I'm here. I just want to set this up really so that I can kick off a run of this stuff and see what fails. I'm guessing like a bunch of things will fail, which will be a good thing, because it'll either discover bugs or teach us that this approach isn't really going to work properly. But the other one I wanted to change was going to be that mutation batch size one. So I guess that's over here. So the default max batch size, instead of just picking 10,000, it's going to be util.constant with metamorphic test range 10,000 default value. The min's going to be, I don't know, is 1 too small? I don't think so. The max is going to be, what should the max be? I feel like it's just 10K maybe, or 20,000. I don't know. You know what's actually also really important now that I think about it is that we'd better like print out these things, or else we're gonna get really confused if tests fail. So it's almost as if we need, wait, what? Oh, this needs to be a var, not a const. It's almost as if we need to pass in the name of the value here, or else we're gonna really, oh, you know what we could do is actually, no, here's what we'll do. We'll say log dot, do we really have a logging context here though? I guess we should just say, we'll say log.infof, we can put context.background, initializing metamorphic constant with value D. I guess we have to specify to capture this thing. And then what we really need to do is print out like the stack, basically, right? We need to know where, like what value we actually modified here.
The data bank's too big.
So I guess I've got to figure out how to do that.
How are you going to do
which
that?
I sort of forget.
By guessing.
Hey, Vinit, thank you for the follow. So what if we search like
data banks.
Hey, thanks for the follow. Let's see if I got it right. Hey month. So go get last stack frame. Caller returns a call from the stack of the current go routine. The argument skip is the number of stack frames to ascend, with 0 identifying the calling function. So I think we want to run this with skip of 1. I'm doing pretty good. I hope you're doing good too. How are you? So we'll say, oh, this is not even this is like a library, right? I don't want that. Don't want to really import anything new. I think we had something called small trace, get small trace. I think this is what we want. Get small trace returns a comma separated string containing the top 5 callers from a given skip level. So I think we just want to call this thing tilde get small trace of 1. Why don't we can factor this into a little method actually. So we'll say func log metamorphic value, v value, or value int. I think it's just value int, right? Does nothing, gives back nothing, and it's just gonna say this. And here we can do skip 1 value. Okay, so I think this is going to make our lives a little bit easier. I am using Golang IDE, yes. Okay, so let's add this up. So we'll add this one. We'll just amend this last commit with the change to all right, and then we'll add the logging to the initial commit. Wait, what did I do? Get restore one. Whoops. So we're gonna add this. We want this one. We don't want this, we do want this. Okay, there we go. All right, just a little bit of rebase stuff, and then I think we'll be good. Oh my God, did I just like self-impose? I'm just gonna undo this. I'll just maybe squash everything into a single commit. I'm too lazy to make this work now. All right, so now we've got a big fat commit that does all this stuff. I think that's better. It doesn't, no need to have a couple of different commits for this stuff, I think. Okay. So I think, don't know if I wanted to do anything else with this actually. Feeling pretty good about it. I guess the next thing is I do need to sort of make a test configuration that uses this build tag. But I don't know if I'm going to do that on stream because it would involve changing CI, and I feel like that's an easy thing to have secrets in and stuff like that. So I'll just do this later. So then I guess we're going to switch gears a little bit at this point and talk about some observability stuff that we've been thinking about. So let's see. How do I introduce this? I guess. Well, actually, wait a minute. You know what I might do first? You know what I might do first is there was this issue that I looked at last time and I didn't get to fixing. I think it should be pretty straightforward. The idea is that I wanted to be able to show the number of rows, row count estimate in the UI. This one. So I think this should be pretty straightforward. We have all the plumbing for it now. This is open from 2016. We just need to plumb it up into the UI. And so I thought that I could start with this. Am I going to use something specific for the observability stuff? I don't know if what you mean by use. I mean, I think, I guess maybe you're asking like, am I going to use like one of these frameworks like Open Tracing or Honeycomb or anything like that? I think what I'm thinking of is more about, here, let me actually just show you a demo. I was just trying to think like, how can I introduce this in a way that's going to be comprehensible for people? So let's actually why don't we make a single node instance here. Estimated row count will be nice. Yeah, I agree. I think it should be really useful. So let's do that. And we'll make a new window here. We'll go to, well, let's actually start like a little workload. So we're gonna go to our cockroach directory. We're gonna say cockroach workload start kv. Or is it kv start? Run? We'll do this. We'll run tpcc with wait equals false. Okay. We also probably want to turn off this logging. Hold on a sec. So we'll turn off this logging. We'll go back. We'll go over here. Okay. So now that this is happening, we can go to our web UI and click around at what we've got. In the realm of open telemetry, yes, not like SaaS. Yeah. I mean, really, like the thing is that a lot of what we want to do to make this stuff better is changing our own web UI. All of the metrics that we're going to be talking about are already getting exported via Prometheus. So we don't need to worry too much, I don't think. Well, I don't know. I mean, tracing can always be better, but Prometheus right now, what we've got is like, I think pretty good. And if you want to hook up your own Grafana endpoints and stuff like that, I think you're going to be able to get some good stuff for time series. Our tracing story is definitely not there. Like we don't have a way to really hook up an external tracing source to Cockroach yet. That would be a really cool project actually, and something that I think we should do at some point. It's just I haven't quite gotten around to it. The idea there would be that like, you know, you could connect to the database and say like, you know, set trace token is equal to foo or something like this. And then what this would do is it would set, you know, the sort of trace ID of some external tracing provider on the remaining, you know, tracing spans that get emitted by Cockroach. And then you'd be able to associate all those tracing spans in Cockroach with your tracing spans from, you know, your entire rest of your microservice API or whatever it is that, you know, if you're familiar with the tracing stuff, you probably know what I'm talking about. We don't have a way to do this. Like Cockroach can emit traces, but all of the trace tokens or whatever they're called, trace IDs, are sort of made up randomly. There isn't a way to associate. So I would like to do this. That's not what I'm going to do today though. Mainly I want to figure out a way to like make it so that, let's say we have this workload, TPCC. If you're not familiar with this, it's just sort of like a sort of standard benchmarking workload that simulates, you know, people using warehouses and buying things from different districts and stuff like that. So they've got all these queries, you know, select from new order where blah, blah, blah. So it's like somebody's placing orders at terminals and getting products from warehouses and getting deliveries and stuff like that. Figuring out how much things cost with taxes. The question that I have is like, let's say, you know, you had only provisioned, you know, three nodes worth of CockroachDB, and you were asking to run a size of TPCC that was way too beefy for the hardware that you had provisioned. So like just out of control amounts of load on the database. The question is, you know, what do we do as a database? That's one question that we've talked about a little bit on stream. And the other question is, what do we do as a user of the database, as an SRE team or as a developer team to notice when this is happening and, you know, mitigate, right? It's like either you have to scale up the database or you have to scale down the load. Those are kind of the only two options, right? You can't push hardware past its limits. It doesn't work. Something will fail. So the question is, if you're the user, how do you notice what to scale back, right? Or like, how do you figure out what a problematic part of the workload is? And the answer is that we don't give a huge number of different ways to do that right now. I think the best thing that we have, we've got this sort of average latency thing here, which is kind of cool. So you can be like, you know, what are the most expensive queries in my workload right now over the last hour? That doesn't really tell you everything. You know, you can go to these time series metrics and try to see, okay, here's the number of queries per second, but you can't bucket it by app or anything like that. That would be cool if you could. You could say, you know, maybe say, you know, give me only the time series for the app that was set to be called blah or something like that, or TPCC, but we don't have that level of control right now. Our time series data doesn't include that information. So essentially, like, we don't really give you ways to see that stuff, and it's kind of a problem. This is a new page. I worked on this on stream a few months ago, this sessions page, which is neat. But it also doesn't give you a huge amount of information. You can see, you can go to the session, you can say, okay, well, we're using 240 kilobytes of memory, maximum 330 kilobytes of memory, but like, there's not much more than that here. Not like amount of CPU used over time or anything like that. So yeah, just kind of trying to figure out what we can do better here. Hey, Portuguese Captain, what's up? Boy, do I have questions. Yeah, we were just talking about this the other day, weren't we? So I thought it would be fun to kind of think about some of this stuff on stream, since it is such an important thing to try to fix, right? I mean, that's the question though, right? Like, what do we do? What do we do? One idea is that, like, what if we used to have this metric that was like the number of executions of a statement times the average latency. So you could sort of get this sense for how much time is spent overall servicing a kind of query. For some reason, we got rid of that. I don't exactly know why we got rid of that, but we did. You know, like total execution time, this times this. And that's like a decent proxy to how much work the database has done, you know, on a particular statement. But does it really help you? I feel like it doesn't. I feel like it doesn't, because it's all still too, it's almost like too fine-grained, right? Danny, do you use a Go backend for this? Yes, this is all Go stuff. Oh, it has it inside of the statements page. I didn't realize. Oh yeah, total time. Look at that. But it's too bad you can't sort by this, right? It's like being able to sort by this was kind of the killer thing. So I haven't used this thing in a while. Statement diagnostics. What does this do? Is it going to work? Waiting for query. Bundle. What do I have in here? This is, oh yeah, this is cool stuff. I mean, this is cool. It's a little bit sad that it's not like integrated with the UI, but wow. I mean, it's quite good actually. I think we've come a long way here. It's just like, it doesn't tell you what you want to know. It doesn't tell you like, in aggregate, what's wasting all the time in the cluster, right? That's what we want to know. Trying to think of the times that I've relied on that metric in troubleshooting. If you've ever used Django, do you know of any sort of ORM for Go that does migrations that way? I think there's like Go Buffalo. There's something like that, or maybe look up Go Buffalo. Does the DB know about execution costs in terms of memory and CPU? It does know about, so hey SJP, nice to see you by the way. The database has a few notions of cost. It has the notion of like abstract execution cost that's used by the cost-based optimizer to pick the best plan. But that cost isn't really like strictly associated with either memory or CPU. It's sort of like a unitless constant that's just used to find the best plan. On the other hand, the database does know about memory usage. It tracks, so if you can actually go over here and see like, so for this particular session, the transaction is currently using 0 bytes of memory. At one point it was using at most 20 kilobytes of memory. This session has at one point used a maximum of 330 kilobytes. At the current moment it's using 240 kilobytes. So like there's some stuff here, but like certainly not like a ton. The trouble is that like we really need to figure out how to aggregate this stuff. I think that's kind of the burning question, right? It's like we have like this sort of very rough-grained aggregation in these time series metrics. Very, very rough aggregation. This is just like literally everything that's happening in the cluster. Not able to bucket by anything at all. And then on the other hand, we have this super fine-grained thing, which is like all of the statements that have been run over the last hour and some of their characteristics. And this is a new thing. This transactions page thing is new. I haven't played with it too much actually, but I think the idea here is that it's supposed to let you see for each transaction all of the statements that are run in the transaction. So this is actually really, really cool. And I almost think that maybe we should think about this as the unit of expense. So like, how difficult would it be to create custom time graphs? Yeah, so the problem with that, Portuguese Captain, is that the way that time series storage works is that it's really unhealthy for the storage to try to make sort of horizontally scaled time series. It's sort of an anti-pattern. In other words, what I mean is having dynamically generated time series graphs is something that really tends to break time series storage. So that's why we've avoided to do that. How does that tie back to your real limits to inform your scaling needs? Hardware limits in this case. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, basically like SJP, what I'm talking about is, let's say like I went to this graph and I was looking at my CPU percentage, and I saw that my CPU percentage was at, 90%. The question is, what would I do then? What exactly would I do? If I was on a support call and I was trying to help somebody with an overloaded database, what could I do with that person to help them? I think right now I would have to say, you're putting too much load on the database. You need to stop putting so much load on the database or scale up the database. Those are my two things I could say. But I don't think that people can horizontally scale at the drop of a hat necessarily, and that's a real problem for us. And we still have to be able to help people who have such a problem. Hey, root guy, what's up? So the question is, I really want to be able to say, okay, you're at 90% CPU, and the biggest consumer of your hardware resources is these statements, these transactions, these whatever it is. Would you happen to know if Cockroach finished to sell? Actually, waiting back to hear after. I don't. Did you hear that loud car? I got distracted by the loud car. I don't know. I don't know. Scale those, read replicas, send them a mail when it gets to 70%. Foss, I don't think that we finished filling, but I don't know. I think that if you've been waiting for a while and you haven't heard anything, you should send them a message back. I think that they're busy. We're trying to get a lot of people and whatnot. So just send them a message back. I think that's totally fine. Scale those, read replicas, send them a mail when it gets to 70%. Yeah, I think. So that would go back to the cost question. Even if using the abstract cost from the optimizer when ranked, they should allow us to understand the most impactful queries in aggregate. You're right. I think that you're actually right. And then it would be really interesting to involve the optimizer costs in these views. I think that that's a very, very, very good point, SJP. That's a really fantastic point. I think we should play with this. It was this Tuesday, so still recent? Yeah, I think, don't worry. I think if it was super recent, they'll get back to you for sure. If they don't get back to you after like, I don't know, a while, send them a message. And if you don't hear anything after that, you can DM me on Twitch or something, but they'll get back to you. Aren't the costs available in the statement bundle? They probably are, but that's just, it's so hard to get that information. I really want that to be in the UI as a first class sort of citizen, or I guess we don't say that anymore, as sort of like a top level column. So let's see if we can mess with that. This seems like a fun project. So let's see if we can do this. So all this stuff, all of the information on this page comes from a virtual table called Node Statement Statistics. Node Statement Statistics. First class citizen, I mean, you can say anything you want, Crazy Driver, obviously, but it's just, I don't know. I think it's like a little bit not particularly yeah, it's a little offensive, I would say. It's a little too real, you know, there's undocumented immigrants trying to be real people and not being treated as real people. So anyway, node statement statistics, not to mention the documented immigrants who are also not treated as well, right? It's like, yeah, it's like avoid that sort of stuff in your technical communication, I think. So in this table, right, we have a whole crap ton of stuff in here. What if we added the average cost? That doesn't seem so hard, and it might get us quite a lot of information. I think it should be pretty easy to do too. Let's make it happen. Let us make it happen. Statement statistics, count, num rows, latency, blah, 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 numeric stat. Okay, so I think what we really want to do, yeah, I think we were messing with this on the stream the other day. I think what we really want to do is in this protobuf here, we're going to add on CockroachDB still has a master branch. That's true. That is true. I would like to change that to a different name, but I haven't done it. We haven't found the organizational muscle to do it just yet. So optional numeric stat, we're going to call this cost. We'll call it optimizer cost. We'll call it estimated cost. Estimated cost contains the estimated optimizer cost for the query, we could say. So we'll have to say make protobuf. I don't know what the deal is with this. This is like a weird warning that's cropped up recently. Don't know what the deal is. I think somebody should look at this. Seems like something's a little bit busted. Okay, so we've made our protobuf recompile. It should have a new fancy numeric stat in this app stats bundle. And so the question is now, where do we edit these things, right? Record statement saves per statement statistics. I remember this. There's a long chain of calls. A long chain of calls. You know, here's a question. Does the optimizer even keep the plan? Or the cost, I mean. How do I get the cost of a plan? Here's something I have no idea about. Here's something I just have no clue about. So if we go as a demo, by the way, you guys, I have a big success to report, which is that, you know how like my stream occasionally drops frames or whatever, like that was happening. I think I figured it out, which is that I was streaming over Wi-Fi, which I guess is a horrible idea, but I got a long Ethernet cable that runs from my computer all the way into my living room where the router is, and now there's no drop frames at all. It's pretty great. So I've been live for an hour and 15 minutes with no drop frames. I feel like that's a win right there. I feel like that is a win. So, right, if I say explain opt select 1, 1,000 followers. Oh, thank you. Yes, thank everybody so much for following me and getting me to 1,000 followers. What a milestone. It's exciting. You had bitrate drops though. Interesting. So that I don't know about. That I really have no clue about. Is there a way to get the cost? How do I get the cost?
The data bank's too big. I have to narrow down the search. How are you going to do that? By guessing.
SJP, thanks for that follow. I appreciate that. I have no idea how to get this cost. I guess we'll have to dive in. We'll have to dive into this memo structure Which, by the way, if you want to learn about the Cockroach optimizer and what this memo structure is, I highly recommend checking out this talk by my colleague Rebecca Taft, who gave a great talk on Andy Pavlo's Quarantine Database lecture series. And I'll link it in the chat. But I highly recommend watching this talk, as you're going to learn a lot about cost-based optimizers and cockroaches in particular. But anyway, we're going to have to figure out how to get the cost of something. It looks like an expression has a cost. Cost is an estimate of the cost. Oh, maybe we can just say like, get the memo. And then can we get like the root expression? Okay, rootexpr.cost. No, that's not a thing. Rootexpr gives me back an optexpr. Wi-Fi is like terrible garbage collector to the language. It runs fine for a while, then goes crazy and tanks the performance. Andy Pavlo's CMU-DB vids are amazing. Yeah, he's an entertaining person, isn't he? So I'm confused though. I guess we have, it's a relational expression versus an arbitrary expression. Is that the problem? Can I make this into a relational expression somehow? You've been watching the stream over your company's VPN? That's hilarious. How do I like turn this into a relational expression? Does anybody? Oh, look, everybody just casts it, right? Is this always valid? Is it always the case that a root expr is a relational expr? I don't know. Let's just try it. Maybe we'll just crash everything. We'll find out. Yeah, it's like a learning cost, right? So here we have the cost of the plan, maybe. Could be. Plan cost. And then I guess we can just sort of thread this thing all the way through, right? I'm getting sick of this huge argument set, so I honestly might just make a quick little struct here to make our lives easier. We'll make a struct. We'll say plan info, stats, details. So we have something called top level query stats. This is sort of like execution statistics. And then we sort of have like planning information or something. I don't know. Maybe instead of stats details, it's like statement or like plan details maybe. So we'll pass in details, plan details. And then same for this, we'll pass in plan details. It's just gonna make our lives a little bit easier with all of the argument passing here. Details, plan details, right? Details, plan details. Okay. So fix that. We just have to fix the collar of this. So we'll say plan details.
Database.
Hey, G-Bo, thanks for the follow. Okay, let's make this a little bit less annoying. All right, so then we just get to say automatic retry count is this, rows affected. All right. I think this is going to be worth our while. It was a little bit annoying, but I think it's just going to make our lives a little bit easier going forward. Because then all we have to do to add this is we just have to add it in one place. We can say plan cost. I don't even know what data type this thing is, by the way. What is it? It's a cost. It's a float 64. Well, we could just make it a, can we make it a cost? Or is that a bad idea? Memo.cost. I'll make it a float. Okay, so we'll say cost is plan cost. I guess we have to cast it. All right. So we've got our plan cost plumbed through here. And then if we go into record statement, if we go to record statement in app stats, then we ultimately get to say, I guess we have to make another, oh, we already have this stat. So all we have to say is s.mu.data.plan cost, estimated cost, .record, s.mu.data.count, and then float 64 of stats.details.plan cost. Sweet. I think we have to add a little bit of boilerplate here. Estimated cost almost equal to estimated cost.
The computer's hooked into over 1,000 data banks throughout the world.
Yo, Bam Bam, thanks for the follow. So here in, okay, so this is our node statement statistics table, and I think that we would like to add some more fields to this now. So instead of just bytes read, rows read, overhead, blah, 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 we'll say estimated cost average, estimated cost variance, I don't know, is this the right way to do it? I think it is. Not positive, but I think it is. I think it is. I think it is. So this is right above bytes read average. So here, instead of bytes read, we'll put estimated cost. Okay. I think that's all we need to do, maybe, for now. So let's rebuild this. In the meantime, I think what we'll also eventually need to do is go to where we query this thing for the web UI and actually add in this information to the response. Rows red. Where does this exist? Nobody knows. Computer is busy compiling. Cheers. Let us compile. Take your Nalgene. Cheers the camera. Take a drink. That's how we drink water on the stream, friends. The flourish. You kind of want to be able to filter on a combination of cost and number of times executed, I guess. Yes, I agree with you on that one. Stay hydrated. Yeah. Could redeem some of those channel points for something useful. Still need to think of something good to do with channel points. Does anybody else have one of these little musical frogs that you can get from like crappy stores? You set up some crazy high channel points to pick the final console to go in your museum. Oh, that's awesome. You should. Do you have any MAME stuff? Like, I know MAME isn't really a console, but I have a bunch of kind of weird. I have an ocarina I don't know how to play. I could learn an ocarina song. And then, how the heck do you do this again? It's kind of like this, right? I need to learn like the Ocarina of Time songs on this thing. Good things to do with your channel rewards points. Force streamer to play terrible ocarina. I'm gonna get a JAMA adapter for arcade boards for a super gun. What the heck? Those are like 5 words that I've never even heard of. Which is essentially a device that translates controller into arcade board inputs. Oh, cool. That's pretty neat. Like that could be kind of fun. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I need to add something to my pre-stream checklist, which is like make sure that the branch that you're on has been recently compiled to avoid this kind of stuff. So you buy the arcade board, plug it into the adapter, and play the arcade machine on the TV. The only catch is arcade boards are stupid expensive. Yeah. You feel like it's going to be a big PR? That's okay. It happens. Yeah. I feel like the thing to do is get one of those, like, just like get a, what do they call them? a cupboard? What? Why can't I think of the name for what like the enthusiasts call like a, you know, a full machine, like a big old machine with a game on it? What do they call that? Not a cupboard. It's a cabinet? A cabinet. Oh, you know why this is taking forever? It's because I forgot to close out. Oh my God, I've got way too many terminals open. I thought I forgot to close out. This is like embarrassing. This is you're seeing my dirty laundry. It's like a bajillion terminals open. I thought I forgot to close that out. I guess I didn't. Weird. Well, we'll try it again. Sometimes Webpack gets like weirdly stuck. I don't know. What if I need those later? I don't know. It's a good question, Harrod Talk. I think that I will just be screwed. I'll just have to reopen them, something like that. Man, Webpack is just so brutally slow. It absolutely kills me, I have to say. Webpack. Multiple changes to the UI. Yeah, so there is something that you can do to make that a little bit faster, Crazy Driver, which is you can use this make UI watch stuff. So if you go from the top level of Cockroach and you say, I'm not going to do it right now, but if you say this, then it's going to actually build the UI and it'll serve it from a different port such that if you change the TypeScript files, it'll reload them without having to recompile everything, which is really handy. I'd never heard of Cockroach before watching the stream for the first time this week, and my manager brought up wanting to use it tonight to figure out what it does and why I care. That's cool. I like that. That's a good story. Yeah, I mean the summary. I don't know. I'm just talking about developing on the very insides of it, so I generally don't talk about like the big value props and stuff like that. But you know, it's a horizontally distributable, scalable database. It's like SQL. I think of Cockroach is like the SQL database that you always wanted, but never really thought you could have. That's the way that I think of Cockroach. It's like, it basically works just like any other SQL database, but it magically horizontally scales without having to like manually shard stuff. That's like the dream. That's what I think of Cockroach as. If you don't delete or close in this case and don't regret it, you haven't experienced true software engineering. Yeah, maybe. Man, oh man. Have you ever heard of a really, really slow Webpack build? Don't know what this is about. I think it might have just finished. I just had to complain about it one time. All right, we're back in business. We are absolutely back in business. You thought that it would cache already build items when, yeah, I think it's just like I really churned my branches or something. I might have like checked out an old release branch and I hadn't rebuilt anything before starting the stream today, which is just a massive mistake that I always try to remember to not do that, and then I do it anyway. So that's just life. That is just life. I really want it. So they came out with these new, like a new Ryzen thing, right? Like I've been thinking about building a PC for a while. New Ryzen. And I'm like, well, maybe I should wait. So they just came out with the new graphics cards, the like 3900 or whatever it is. They just came out with this Ryzen thing, which is like new. So I'm like, maybe we build like a super good PC or something, and then we can stream from that and not this like tiny little MacBook. Things will go a lot faster, be a lot less irritating. Kind of thinking about doing that. They look hot. How do you like know exactly? Because I mean, I read this article, but I'm just sort of like, what is like good about this as opposed to any other CPU? I don't know. Speak to work and say I need to make me more effective. Yeah, for sure. I've thought about it. Not gonna lie. Gotta expense those items, right? Benchmarks and comparisons. Yeah, I don't know. Generally, AMD has more cores over Intel processors, but clock speed on Intel are higher. By the time Webpack gets ready for building JavaScript, Go compiler builds a ton of code and codes burr. Yeah, exactly. That's what's happening here. Okay. Okay, so that absolutely took forever, but the point is that we can now go ahead and say, we can say, I don't know, select one a bunch. And then we can say select star from node statement statistics. So I guess we want to say select estimated cost average. Well, this is actually pretty sick though, isn't it? So the variance looks screwed up, but the average looks right. Cost times execution count over given time range will be how this gets ranked. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. Maybe that's right, SJP. I think the problem is just that the UI is really inflexible when it comes to this stuff. It's like just trying to figure out how we can display all this stuff without like blowing out. You know, it's like the screen is only so wide, right? It's like how do you pack all this information into the screen such that it's easy to use? It's a question that I don't feel like I have a good handle on right now. It's kind of a problem, honestly. But anyway, this seems to be working fine. So let's go and check out. Where do we end up using this thing again? CRW internal node statement statistics. Somewhere we fan out in the web UI and get all of this information. Wait, is it not done this way? I don't think it's done this way, right? It's like, I think we reach directly into the app stats somewhere. Allow the users to display the columns. Yeah, that is a huge can of worms. Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know. My UI skills are not nearly sharp enough to think about how to do that, but you're kind of right, maybe. I always forget how we get this stuff back. I just don't remember where it's done. Is it in status.go? Statement. You won't admit that you're good at web UI then? That's, I'm interested. It's a good thing to admit. Why am I so bad at remembering this stuff? It's like I always have to go here. I always have to click inspect. And I always have to refresh and like see what we call statements. Status, it is status. I'm so confused. Oh, right. It's because there's two stupid status files. I think that's the issue. Okay, here we go. List sessions, list local sessions. That's not right either, is it? Isn't there like a list statements or something? Statements response. Who sets up one of these? Statements.go. It's just a file called statements.go. How could I be so stupid? How could I forget? Okay, no problem. So, statements response. Statements response collected statement statistics. Statement statistics. Oh, we already edited this. Okay, sweet. So actually, it's now the case that if we go to this URL here, we should actually see the estimated cost already, right? Estimated cost, mean and squared diffs. Sweet, so all we actually have to do is change what's displayed in this UI, which shouldn't be so hard. I guess we could start, yeah, because it's really important that we be able to sort on it, right? That's so important. Let's start just by including it on this page. So we'll go to the statement details page here. And we're gonna put it under this one, I guess, right? I don't know. Okay, so I think that there's something else probably that ends up populating these things, right? Looks like it's this. Flattened statement stats, it takes a collected statement statistics, which is the protobuf, and it turns it into this execution statistics thing. So I think what we need to do is also add here. Oh no, it's already in here. It's in statement statistics. Okay, so we're good. We're good. It's in this stats thing. So then over here, we just need to say, where do we use stats here anywhere? Execution stats. You're not sure you like React over Angular? I wouldn't be able to make a comment on that. I just have no idea. So I've got stats here and it comes from up here. Okay, so that's fine. I think that's fine. We just have to say basically stats dot estimated cost, right? I think we might need to use some of this like render stuff, right? Oh, you know, honestly, here's the other thing is like, you kind of want one of these little fancy bars, right? This always starts to get fun, especially if you are not so good at this stuff. Why don't we just, for now, execution count, rows affected. We'll just put it here. I don't know. Do we have a way to like render these things? Is there like a, we kind of want the numeric stat thing renderable, right? Numeric stat table. Oh yeah, this is what this is doing, right? I think the idea is that if this varied, then this would also vary. So I think maybe we could just make a fresh numeric stat table. How about that? It's a little bit extra maybe, but... Or we could just stick it right in here. Should we just do that? It's a little bit misleading, but I think that that actually might be fine. These are the fixtures, I see. I'll just do this for now. Okay, so we'll have to change this from saying other execution statistics to something better, but that's fine. So we'll say estimated cost. The value is stats dot estimated cost. The bar is generic bar chart with stats dot estimated cost again. Okay. And it's unitless, so we won't try to do anything with units. And then we can go ahead and get rid of the other thing that we were trying to add, which was this. We don't need this at all. Let's get rid of this stuff here. And then I think at this point, we can probably say, we'll leave this, and then in another window, we can say make UI watch. And so this is doing that thing where it's gonna spin up another server that just has the website sort of loaded dynamically, so we don't have to recompile every time. Should be convenient. And then, okay, so once we've gotten this done, then I think the next step would be to add it to that view where we can sort and everything. I think this is going to be really helpful, the estimated cost, honestly. Like, we've been sort of shying away from displaying costs too much. Yeah, it links to a running Cockroach instance. It's like a proxy, exactly. So like, if I go here, I can still see stuff on this page, but then if I go to localhost 3000, it's going to give me this proxied front end that has the code that's sort of hot reloaded or whatever. So I go to statements. I guess I have to do something, refresh. And then I should have okay, nothing got changed though. A little bit suspicious. Oh, rows affected. Oh, it's gonna be in here then. Whoops, sort of put it in the wrong spot. Other execution statistics, estimated cost. The mean is .02. Ah, this is ugly. I don't like this at all. It's not an execution statistics at all. I think we need to fix that. I think what we need to do is like put one of these numeric stat tables over here, basically. I don't know. We'll try that. I'm not a UI person. Not a UI person. I'm making a programmer UI. I can feel it. It's not good. So we're gonna just grab this whole thing. And execution count. So underneath this, I think I'm gonna put estimated cost. Or maybe we should put it up here. Total time, mean service latency, estimated cost, right? Does that feel good? So this is going to be called average, or we'll say mean estimated cost. And we're going to make it, the value will be format number for display, stats dot estimated cost dot mean. What is this duration business? Can I just not put anything? Okay. So obviously this is not a duration. Yo, JJM, what's up? Yeah, so basically what we're doing is thinking about, we were going through a scenario of like, okay, somebody's using this database and there's too much load on the database. So either there's too much database traffic from your application or the database is insufficiently scaled. The question is, what do we do as users of the database when this happens? And I think that there's sort of two interventions, right? You can either scale the database up or you can reduce the load on your database. Sometimes you can't immediately scale the database up though, and sometimes people want to find a way to quickly back off, right? In the case of database overload, which happens to any database, right? You're going to run into hardware limits at a certain point in any system. So the question is, how do you quickly identify which are the problematic statements, right? Let's say you have 10 workloads running and one of them is problematic. What's the fastest way that we can think of to surface these really expensive, painful queries that are bringing the database down to the user as quickly as possible? So I think SJP had the suggestion that we should try to elevate this notion of optimizer cost to the user. I think historically we've been sort of avoidant of doing that because optimizer cost can be a really confusing concept because it's a unitless constant that doesn't really reflect to anything in the real world. That being said, it's still a pretty useful proxy to see the relative cost of two queries. So it might come in handy for users. I don't know. It's sort of an education problem, right? You have to look at the cost and say, this doesn't mean anything in terms of CPU or memory. It's just sort of this unitless quantity that helps us estimate what's more expensive than another thing. That being said, if there's something that really jumps out as a huge cost, then maybe that's a good thing to look at for like what's expensive and what's not. So I'm just sort of plumbing through a bunch of this information so we can see it at the UI, and I don't know, just imagine what life would be like if we had such a thing available. I don't know why this is formatting as a duration. It's pretty weird. Is this the default? Number 2 string. Why would this be a duration then? The raw number itself won't matter as much as its rank. Yeah, I completely agree with you. We sort of just want like so we can make just sort of cost format. Instead of waiting for it to reach its limits, can you identify a trend that it's maybe using 85% of resources and then could buy some time to see massive available options and cost? No, I would say that overall it's not normal for databases to be using all of their resources. I think that usually means that you're probably under provisioned. I think that, I don't know, it probably depends on the database and the workload and everything, but like if you're getting to like 85% of resources, you're absolutely right that you should be thinking about scaling, because it just takes 1 or 2 expensive queries at that point to like put you over the edge and slow down the rest of your workload. Even if you have not consumed all the resources, it's useful to highly costly queries. Yeah, exactly. I think that JJM, you're totally right. Like I like the idea of trend watching, and we can do that with time series and stuff, but I think that there's still even just a simpler missing piece for people. I think we have the raw information to do this trend watching stuff already. I think what people are missing is like, how do I find what's expensive in the cluster right now? And so that's why I'm sort of looking at this cost stuff. So can I just like return v? I don't know, v.string or something? How do I? Can I just do that? JavaScript noob over here. All right, so if I save this and then go back to my statements page, mean estimated cost is 0.02. That is completely pointless, but okay. So I guess the next thing is, right, we have to imagine what it's going to look like if we have it filtered here. So why don't we just make that happen, just so we can see what it looks like. And then we can test it with TPCC to see what it looks like in an actual sort of example. So we'll go to the statements page. Oh wait, I think it's called statements table is the name of the file for this. What is the name of the file? Oh, is it statements contents or something? Statements table content. Okay, so here we have a big definition of this table. So where would we want to put it? We got statements, transaction type, retries, execution count, rows affected, latency, estimated cost. Maybe I'll put it like here. I don't think that rows affected is like a useful metric to display top level. I feel like this is useless, honestly. I don't know though. Okay, so we're gonna say estimated cost. It's easy to identify a very large query with rows affected. Yeah, I guess that's true. But would it also be easy to identify it with estimated cost instead? I really think that, yeah, I know what you mean. I agree. We need to have both. Well, you just want both, man. You just want both. So I'm not gonna, the tooltip is gonna be like estimated cost. You know what you sort of need? You know what would be actually kind of good, SJP? Is if there could be a toggle. Because it's the truth is that we want this for both the latency and the rows affected. You know what I mean? You sort of want this across several different dimensions. So it's almost as if we want this view where you can sort by rows affected average, and then you want like a sum view, right? And you can click this to be like, give me the sum. Give me the non-sum. Give me the sum, give me the mean. Yeah, it's like sort of sum versus mean, right? That could be kind of cool. I'm going to think about that. So over here, we're going to add in, oops. We're going to add in our estimated cost. You have to make a new bar chart here, I guess. Count and retry? We just want cost. Yeah, I mean, to make this all configurable with the sums, I feel like that would be, we would need to refactor a bunch of this stuff, which I'll maybe do at some point, but probably not this very second. Voxelholic, that's, oh my God, my project is out of date. Commands, edit, project. Yo, BJ Kegley, what's going on? Adding estimated cost to statistics to the statement observability information in CockroachDB. Okay. So is this gonna be good? We got our cost bar chart here. I think there is some D3 up in here, yeah, for sure. I'm not a D3 guy really, but I think we've used it for better or for worse. Okay, so we've got our cost bar. We're gonna get our estimated cost mean here. Does this make any sense? D3 is so painful. It's pretty cool though. I think it's like painful and then it's cool if you can get it all to work. Okay, so then what else am I missing here? I thought that was kind of everything that I needed to do. Okay, clearly I'm missing something because it's not getting updated. Yo, Voxelholic, thanks for that follow. I'm not sure why my thing didn't give a little ping there, but thanks anyway. So we got text, we got time. Time? Why is this called time? Shouldn't this be called type? It's kind of random. Well, I'm actually a little bit perplexed. Make statements columns, right? Is this somehow not being used anymore? That would be a big problem for me. That would be a big problem for me. I can't tell if this is just not being used or it's like my computer is just running super slow for some reason. Make statements columns. Deleting code is fun though. Why is this not? So I have a suspicion for what's going on here, and the answer is that, well, it's a very boring suspicion that I'm not happy about thinking about, which is that I think that somebody might have moved a bunch of this stuff out into an external library maybe, and then maybe didn't clean up some of the remaining stuff. Is that what's going on here? Yeah, you see this? Ugh, that makes me so sad. It lives in this other random place now. Okay, so how would I go about changing this stuff now? How would I go about changing this stuff now that it lives in another library? Oh man, that is so frustrating. Okay, wait a minute. Let's admin UI components, right? Is this, how do I get that? How do I get that? I'm just looking in our GitHub real quick. I'm doing it off stream because my GitHub I feel is like, it's all sensitive now, you know? Admin UI components, right? Here it is. Okay, this seems to be a public repo. So, seems all good. It would be sad if it was not a public repo. I'm glad it is a public repo. Right? All right. So I think I just need to clone this thing and like check it out and stuff and like put it in my development path, and everything will be probably be same as table.tsx. Yeah, I mean, I think the problem though is that like I think that file isn't actually used. I think it's all a lie. Believe it or not. I think it all lives in here. I think it lives in here now. So I'm gonna go here, git clone this thing. Oh, I already got it checked out, huh? I've already got it checked out. I think I just need to maybe add it to my like package path or something. So I sort of want to say like, how does this work? I grab this admin UI components, attach to this project, right? All right. So that's what we want. And then we have all sorts of good stuff. I think we just have to sort of port those changes into this library. Man, I have to say that it's extremely confusing that this stuff even exists anywhere, because as far as I can tell, it's just not even used. As far as I can tell, this is just not even used at all. I also am concerned that like if I were to edit this UI components library, like I'm not sure if it's going to auto update. I'm baffled. I feel rather baffled. Yeah, I think it's just this whole stuff is just not used. I just don't think the stuff is used.
Over 1,000 data banks.
Yo, Styler, thanks for the follow. Appreciate that. All right. Okay. Well, let's just roll with the punches here. So let's go to this new statements page file and see what it looks like. So you can see it's nearly identical. I mean, I know the reason that they're doing this, and there's a good reason for it. It's just a little bit inconvenient for me. The reason is that we want to embed this thing into our cloud product as well, so that you can see it from either UI, which I think is a great mission. It's just a little bit annoying if you haven't set this up already, you know. But that's fine. We'll just move it over here. We're gonna figure out how it works. It's what software is all about, right? It's like you got to figure out how stuff works over and over again forever until you're dead. So we're gonna add our estimated cost to this guy. We're gonna go to this file, and we're just gonna move the stuff that we did into this other area. Grab this. When I see the cloud admin use type interface, yes, exactly. This is just like stuff I already wrote. There is a problem though, which is that this guy is like seeing the wrong version of these proto buffs. How the heck does this stuff work? Oh my gosh. I'm like really lost right now. Okay, wait a minute. So is there something in the README about this? No. How do I like import? Maybe there's some in our package file. Do we import the, where do we import those proto buffs, right? Where does that all happen? You know, like where does, how do we generate these? No, don't tell me we're just... Do we just have to... Oh, guys. Do we just have to copy and paste in the proto buff definition? Is that what's going on here? It kind of feels like we do, though. It kind of feels like we do. Like if you look at the log of this, kind of looks like we just copied it in. Kind of looks like we just copied it in. I don't feel too happy about this. No, it's not nice. It's really not nice. I don't even know. I mean, honestly, I'm confused about the way that this should be working. I think basically the way this stuff is set up is that like these proto buffs are defined in the database for the database to ship around information about various things, lots of different things. Like the database's APIs, not the SQL APIs, but like the web UI sort of thing. What's up, Rise? What is that? Are you an XQ cow Twitch watcher? Oh my gosh. That's like how I feel about this Faust. But anyway, welcome, I guess. I hope you're enjoying your life and day. We're doing some programming, some database programming. OW sounds for Overwatch? Oh wow, I didn't know that. Shows you how much I know. Sugjur, what's up? Yeah, okay. I feel like I'm a little bit at a loss right now. I mean, I guess practically what I would do is just copy in the big proto buff thing, but like that just feels so wrong. I'm trying to think of like what would be the best way to set up these packages so that they work properly, right? It's like ideally, I guess you'd need a separate package for these proto buffs and version them separately and everything so that like the external repo could consume from that, and then also be, you know, it's like sort of this circular dependency. Ugh. You know, on the one hand, like these components need to know the database API, and on the other hand, the database needs to have the components to be compiled. So it's like really, yeah, you need the API definition to live in a different package, and I just don't feel like that's really in the cards right now for me. So I think practically the only thing we could do is just, I mean, even just saying that hurts me because it's just so, it feels so brittle. Like if you mess something up, then you're really going to be quite in big trouble. Things will get out of sync, and then you'll just be really sad. Man, oh man. I don't know, chat. Chat. I feel upset. Also, there's loud stuff outside my window. I'm just gonna close my window real quick. There's a garbage truck outside my house. It's making noise. This has really put a big damper on my ability to make progress here. Oh, I've got too much hair. I need a haircut. Who else needs a quarantine haircut? Who else needs that? I haven't gotten one this entire time. And it's starting to become a problem for me. Get a pair of clippers. I've been thinking about, I mean, I need something to also trim this bad boy beard that I'm growing. I think the beard's, you know, it's like, it's improving. The beard started out really bad, and now it's like this thing is really messed up. Like, what the heck is this? Does anybody know about beard? Like, what is going on here? Why do I have like a weird triangle on my face? It makes no sense. Like, this is like the saddest little thing I've ever seen. But in any case, I don't know. I mean, it's like, you know, it's fine. Genetics, yeah, exactly. Genetics. But oh my God, I feel really frustrated about this situation. Okay, why don't we just, I guess we'll just barrel ahead, because that's what we like to do, right? We're gonna just barrel right ahead. We're gonna copy, the thing is I don't even know where this is coming from, right? It's like source.js, protos.js. Do I need to copy both of these? Like, I don't know anything. What if I just said copy cockroach? I'm sorry. I mean, I'm sorry. This is just not good. Wait. Package UI. Source.js. Yeah, it's like all this stuff just needs to be copied in. Oh my God. Oh well. YOLO. YOLO, right? Just absolute YOLO. And then the question is, how do I compile this thing and then stick it back into the binary? I also have no idea. I just like don't know enough about how this stuff works, unfortunately. Like, okay, I mean, fundamentally, it's like over here in our package UI, package.json, I think we have, yeah, you see this? Like we import this. The thing is, like, how do I, if I were to like make a local version of this, how would I like get it? I don't really know. Like maybe, if we sort of just like, Yeah, right. So now that we've copy and pasted these proto definitions in, I guess this should start compiling at least, which is good, I guess. Yeah, make UI watch. Crazy driver, make UI dash watch. So once that, did that not help matters? Oh, it did help matters. Okay, cool. So that helped matters. What's wrong with this? We got our cost bar chart. I don't know, maybe this is enough. I have no idea. We added our estimated cost over here, and then we added our like tooltip annotation thing in like that other page or whatever, I think. That would be statement table contents, right? No, wait, not this one. So confusing. So confusing. I think we did that. Okay, so maybe if we can just say make, wait, how do you, is it like node? Who knows how to do anything? Yarn install, is that a thing? Okay, I'm going to the bathroom. I'll be right back. All right, we back. We back. You never use yarn, use npm. When in doubt, RMRF node modules. Yeah, so the problem is that I want to install this thing. What the heck is going on here? The problem is that I want to install what's ever in here into like my package path so that some other project can like use it. You know what I mean? But like, I don't really know how to do that. Node Sass. This is like out of my, this is like, I'm out of my element, you know? Donnie, you're out of your element. Jordan, you are out of your element. Node Sass failed. Dude, do I need to, oh, is it this? Do I need to say xcode select install or whatever? No. What does this mean? Wait a minute. This is actually seeming extremely like what I probably want. Let's try this. Good thing there was a README and I didn't read it.
Everybody knows that relational databases don't scale because they use joins, and write to disk.
Null bitmap. What's up? Thank you for the compliment. How's it going? How's it going? We're trying to, you know, I don't even know. Thanks for the resub. The 5 months. How's your icon doing? Type something. Do you get it? Oh, it's because you got that mod thing. You can't. If you're a founder, then you can't see the little O, big O guy. That's like a problem. I want to take that away. I want you to be able to see those beautiful custom icons or whatever. Dude, I don't even know though. Okay, so what am I doing? Refusing to install package with the name admin UI components under a package also called admin UI components. Did you name your project the same name as it? What? I also thought you could change those somehow. No, yeah, you can. Like if you click the little gear, and then I think you should be able to click like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's impossible to know. This library contains components. Yes. Okay. Well, how do I get them, dude? I don't know. What is this? What is this? Do I do it over here? But anyway, null bitmap, we were doing something pretty cool actually before we got hit with this enormous, horrible roadblock, which is that the truth is that we've never thought about the idea of exposing optimizer costs so that people can see them. And I think it's such a brilliant idea. Somebody had it in the chat and I really, really like it. So like, you know, you're over here and you're like, let's actually, okay, wait, let's run TPCC again. So we're running TPCC. And then over here, we're like, okay, well, what's expensive about this workload? Right now, there's no way to know. Like you can sort by latency, but I feel like that's a bad proxy. Or maybe it's a good proxy, but I don't know. I think what you really want is to have some estimate of like what's really expensive. And I feel like the optimizer costs would be good to have here. And you could sort by like, I don't know, the mean and also like the sum of all of the fingerprints. I feel like it's a pretty good idea, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, there's no sane way, right? I was talking about that too, right? It's a unitless constant that makes no sense, and it only makes sense in context of other optimizer costs. But that's kind of exactly what this table view gives you, which is like a way to compare a lot of optimizer costs to each other. TPCC is it's like a standard transactional processing benchmark that people like to use to test databases that are OLTP transactional databases. But we got hit with like a really terrible roadblock in the way of making this happen, and I got kind of distracted and discouraged. It would almost certainly surface egregious stuff like cross joins. Yeah, exactly. I feel like it's kind of a good idea, but have you ever had to have JavaScript dependencies before? Like, why, dude? Mono repos. There we had a dream, which was a mono repo, and then the dream died. And I don't know. What if I just type npm install here? Would that do it? Is TPCC the benchmark you were running that made that flowchart thing? I think you can make that flowchart thing out of any query just by saying explain dist SQL on it. Having read some SQL Server literature, it seems like those people have rules of thumb like cost is greater than X is high. Oh yeah, so you could sort of have some threshold and like highlight it red or something like that, or have sort of a green through red spectrum depending on some sort of rules of thumb like you're saying. I think that's a pretty cool idea. Of course, I don't know if we really have those in Cockroach. We haven't thought about it quite enough, presumably. People have semi-successfully assigned a meaning to them. Yeah. That's cool. I think that it makes sense. I think like to be yeah, I don't know. It's always hard to know the difference between like a system. Can you make a system that's both understandable by people who are new at it and also usable to people who are experienced at it? I think that's like a fundamental conflict, right? It's like, if it's like super deep and detailed, then you have to have a lot of background to figure out what's going on. But it's, yeah. But then if it's super shallow and easy to understand, then like, can you actually extract a lot of value out of it as a deep, experienced person? Another question is like, do you ever want to have somebody be really deep and experienced, right? Or it's like, or is like, is that even a fundamentally flawed concept? And if you're planning to have people who are really deep need to learn about how this stuff is because it's like horrible to debug, maybe that's sort of like a fallacy and you want to just get rid of that if you can. I don't really know. I think you can change, you can point to the directory on your local by changing your package.json to point to the file. Oh, brilliant. Okay, that would be actually super sick. I'm going to try that. I'm curious, like, what is it doing now? Like, what is this? What does npm install do exactly? Is does it just like get all the dependencies? Is that, dude, what? No. Oh my God, this just seems like a, it just seems like a massive fail. Okay. npm install downloads the entire internet. Well, I seem to, yeah. All right, so you're saying that all deps are project local. It solves all the deps and practices. Okay, yeah, so I guess that's not really what I wanted. File, colon. So you're saying I can go like this? Or something like that? It's like this, I think. And then like, I'm nervous that that's not going to work with this UI watch thing, and I'm going to have to reinstall a bunch of crap. Okay, let's kill this. Okay, so it says refers to a non-existing file. Oh, I didn't go backwards enough. Okay, that's cool. So one more level of backwards. So I have to stop kind of early today. If this works, consider it your job application, LOL JK. You should put in a real job application if you want to. We are hiring for lots of roles. Do you hire just for the people in the US? We right now we're hiring people in US, Canada, and UK. For the most part, I think, yeah. Legally, it's difficult to be better than that for now. Not done learning at your current role. What are you working on in your current role, Harrod Hawk? Were you the one who said that your manager told you about Cockroach? Back up in the chat. I think that was you, right? Uh-oh. Oh my God, what is this? I don't know. I don't know if we're gonna figure this out today. I just feel like we're not gonna figure this out today. You're in the UK, so it might apply someday. Yeah, you should. You should. Error running install script for optional FS events. I just don't think I'm gonna figure this out right now, to be honest. Got to get bored of your current job. Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's an important thing. To change jobs, you have to be bored of your current job. 100%. That was you on an e-commerce cart checkout team, Java Angular, but your primary focus is Java. Someday you'll get to write Go at work. Yeah. I think Go is a pretty good language to be writing at work. I don't know. I used to hate it. Like when I first joined the company, I was kind of sad to do Go because I was coming from Java and I was like, oh my God, Go, it's like wild, wild west. You're just sort of doing I don't know. There's like not a lot of structure to help you make things that are factorable, dependency injection, class structure, you know, like giant files, you can do anything. But then over time I got really used to it and I like it a lot better than Java because I just feel like so much more productive. JavaScript toolchain and obscure unhelpful errors baby rage. Yes. Go is my passion language right now. Write Java to pay the bills. Yeah, I like Java. I mean, I like Java, to be clear. I really do like Java. I think these days I feel like I like Go better than Java. This is full baby rage. 100% baby rage. Like, what is this? I feel like why? com.apple.pkg.developer tools, CLI, Leo? What? Dude. It's just not acceptable. It's not acceptable. Like if I revert this, presumably it'll still build, right? You're still surprised Cockroach is written in Go? Currently working for Illumina DNA sequencing, which is cool. That does sound really interesting. Hate JavaScript, avoid it at work. Yeah, I mean, I think that TypeScript is a pretty cool language, actually. Just as a language. Like the tooling, I feel like I'm struggling with the tooling, but I like the language. It's pretty nice. Not very common because GC and stuff. Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've definitely had some struggles with memory management in particular, Styler, with Cockroach. I think that's probably the weakest part for us, for the database. It's like, I mean, I think, okay, so there's a couple of things. Like at the storage level, it's actually not a big problem because we used to use RocksDB, which is the C++ thing, right? And so that does its own memory management. And now we're using Pebble, which is also written in Go, but it does its own memory management in a way that like sort of doesn't have to do garbage collection stuff in the same way. Uh-oh, I think I like broke my entire JavaScript toolchain then, so that's fun. But in any case, I think that the way Pebble works and its caches and stuff like that is it doesn't delegate to the Go garbage collector. It does manual memory management to avoid the overhead and to avoid problems and stuff like that. So that's like at the storage level, I don't think we have a big problem with that. The problem sort of does come into play more at the like SQL execution layer, which is like the part that, you know, is having data running around and getting allocated and freed for the lifetime of a query or something like that. And that's actually something that we talk about a lot on the stream, which is how do we make an efficient way of passing this data around through the database without having to mess too much with the garbage collector. I think like early on in the lifetime of the database, we thought like, okay, we're going to go for a simple model where every like cell inside of a row, you know, inside of a table, like a row column pair data object, which you call a datum. We're going to make that thing a, you know, individually garbage collectible object. And that turns out to be a bad idea for performance and for tracking memory so that you can make sure that, you know, you don't run out of memory as a database. That's like a critical thing to not do as a database. Don't ever run out of memory, even if your users ask you to. You always have to spill to disk or reject the query. And so trying to make sure that that can happen properly using these sort of, you know, datum object things was something that we really struggled with. So in this new model that we've been working on, this like vectorized execution engine is what we call it. And you can read about it on our blog and stuff like that. The way it works is that the memory is managed in more of a sort of, I mean, it's a columnar format, but the point is that it's like they're Go native data types in slices. So when you allocate a bunch of this data, it's like a big chunk and you can allocate it all at once and free it all at once. And it's a lot easier to keep track of. You have a lot less slop in your memory management and it's just better overall. Pebble is 20.2, so it's actually 20.2, like 2020, the year. But you can, yeah, it's going to be on by default in 20.2, and you can switch it on in 20.1, and it should be fine. Yeah. Anyway, blah 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 blah. Dude, I think that what's so crazy about this stuff is that it takes longer to build this JavaScript stuff than it does to build the entire database without the JavaScript. It's really annoying. I wish Cockroach Cloud adds GCP peering one day. I think that's a hot topic right now. I'm going to write that down that you said that, Styler, because I appreciate that as a sentiment. I absolutely appreciate that as a sentiment. I think that it's a hot topic. I think that it's going to happen. But I don't know the timeline. This is not going to happen right now, you guys. I'm trying to think. Yeah. I'm going to have to go back, figure out what to do with this cost stuff. The only thing holding you back, that's good to know. That is good to know. Yeah. I don't know, you guys. I think I might call it, honestly, because I have to go in a few minutes anyway, and I feel like I've reached the end of my chain for this JavaScript stuff. Can there be docs added on how to work with the UI once you figure it out? Yes, that's a very good idea, Crazy Driver. I really want to make that happen. Because we're about to be investing in this part of the UI a little bit more anyway. Like, we're hiring some people to look at it. We're trying to ramp up the organization that works on it a little bit because it's just understaffed right now. Like, we haven't really changed it so much in like a while, just because we haven't had the people. So I'm really hoping that as we hire these people, we can start to document, start to make it easier to contribute, just make the tool chain a little bit better. I mean, it's pretty horrible right now. Like, I think we've got to do better. So I agree with you. I 100% agree with you there. And hopefully we'll do a good job. So we want to make it possible, you know. Right now this is feeling like impossible in a way. Yeah. So I think I'm going to try to pick somebody to raid. Who should we raid? It's weird though, as the events I'm adding to the UI code is in the main repo. Yeah, so most of it, Crazy Driver, is in the main repo. It's just like a little bit of this stuff has been starting to be broken out into a different thing, this admin UI components. I don't know the plan. Because I think, to be honest, Crazy Driver, the plan is that we're trying to break out more and more of this stuff into the admin UI components repo. And I agree that, like, if we want to do more of that, we really, really, really need to make it possible to, you know, iterate on these things rapidly, which doesn't really appear to be the case right now. Like, if we want to add more to that, we have to make it possible to sort of use. So I think you're absolutely right, and I'm going to try really hard to make that happen. Yes. So who do we raid? Who do we rate? I think so. There's this game developer that I really admire called Inkrepair. He doesn't have a huge Twitch channel, but he makes amazing games. They're like legit games, you know? So I think we're gonna raid him. It looks like he's working on game development. So say hello to this guy. Check out his games too, because they're really good. Like, you know, I feel like there's some. What are the ones that we've heard of, right? What are the games that Inkrepair has made that we've heard of? Why do I even know about this stuff at all? Steven Lavelle, right? Yeah, dude, he made Steven Sausage Roll. This guy made Steven Sausage Roll. Do you guys know Steven Sausage Roll? It's like an absolutely insane game. One of the best games ever. Look at this. Joseph Anderson made a video on it. Like, this is a legit thing. So this guy's streaming. Go say hello to him. Have a great weekend, you guys. And I'm going to be streaming probably again. Whoops. I'm probably going to be streaming again on Sunday. So I'll see you Sunday if you are around. And if not, I'll see you next week. Have a great weekend. Have a great day. Okay, bye.